Harvey Hildebrand is here with us, state representative from Kerrville, who is running for comptroller as a Republican. Good to see you again.
Great to be back.
I know that we've seen you now months on the campaign trail, and you've just opened up your headquarters in San Antonio, right?
Absolutely. We're very excited. We had a grand opening yesterday evening in San Antonio. That's our statewide headquarters. I've got a lot, it's personal to me. I've got a lot of friends and family there. My dad grew up in San Antonio, was born there. My wife was born there, grew up there. Her whole family's there. I've got a brother who lives there, but we got lots of family, extended family and friends. And of course, my district is contiguous to Bexar County.
Right.
So we've been included in a lot of the Republican, Bexar County Republican Party, a lot of the other Bexar County and San Antonio Republican organizations when they've had events and when they've had, come to work with legislators. So we've been a part of that community as the communities that surround San Antonio, and we're in the Hill Country, and we're right next door, and San Antonio, the Hill Country, and South Texas kind of all go together.
Now, this run for a statewide office is a different animal, and so what have you learned now months into this?
Well, I knew it was a big state. I had traveled the state extensively. I have a large district. I've had a district, right now it's 12 counties, but I had a district as large as 15 counties, and I've had West Texas counties, so I've traveled extensively throughout the state, the rural areas, all geographic areas, but it's even a bigger state than I thought, because when you're actually going to places and you think you've covered a metropolitan area, you find out there's a lot more places to go to.
I wanted to talk about some of the issues that are cropping up and what you're doing. You have a performance pledge that's developing, you're adding to it, but it includes right now a taxpayer bill of rights, and I saw that it addresses what happens when a business, for example, appeals their tax assessment. Talk about that in this, what you're after here.
Well, and we're really excited. And last night at the grand opening, people responded to this message. People all over the state are responding to our performance pledge, are responding to the specific plan of action that we're running on, that we actually have a plan that we want to accomplish once we're elected, and they like the substantive nature of it and the specifics of it. In the case of the Texas Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which you can find on my website, harveyfortexas.com, if you go to the front page, right under the video that's on the front page is the link to the Texas Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and I would encourage everybody to look at that. It's we have a 7-point plan, 6 very specific substantive points about tax administration and giving taxpayers the same rights as the state already enjoys. We want to level the playing field and give taxpayers rights that they don't have today, and take away the advantages the state has over taxpayers, which are unfair advantages. In fact, we have too inconsistent and too unfair. We have an unfair and too inconsistent of a tax administration going on in Texas today, and I want to fix that. Specifically on what I would call pay to play, we're required to pay your taxes up front if you're going to appeal those taxes, that tax question. And what's interesting about that is that we charge a higher interest rate to taxpayers when they owe us money and when they have penalties or interest, than we pay them when we owe them a refund. So you're required to pay to play, prepay your taxes before the dispute is adjudicated, is settled. And then if you win, you're going to get a lower interest rate paid to you than if you were owing the state money. So that's a problem. But there are many other points, whether it's the scope of an audit, there's 6 specific points dealing with that. The 7th point being very important, that is put it in the state constitution so a future comptroller can't change it, and it's more difficult for a future legislature to change it. So I think I encourage people to look at it. It's a comprehensive plan, and it levels the playing field. It addresses some of the real inequities in both the tax laws, but also in the rules that enforce and interpret those tax laws, and the administration and inconsistent and unfair application of those tax laws.
One thing I wanted to talk about also was the fact that, of course, Chairman of the Ways and Means, and in the House and in the Senate, we did have in this past session a franchise tax reform bill. And I know that there were compromises with
Sure.
both versions there. Ultimately, though, one of your opponents, Glenn Hager, Senator, you were critical of him for maybe making some changes there. Explain what was the need for the bill and maybe the problem with some of the changes.
Yeah, well, we worked on the bill really from the time I was a member. I'd been a member of the Ways and Means Committee for 4 terms. The last 2, I've been chairman. I've had the ability to be the chief tax policymaker in the legislature because of that position with Ways and Means. And we've had oversight responsibilities over the comptroller's office. So we've learned what's working and not working. We want to continue some of the things that are working, and we want to fix the things that aren't working. And in the case of starting now, before I'm ever elected comptroller, in the legislature, trying to reform taxes, trying to give tax relief and cut taxes, and especially for the area of small business, making our tax system fair and more consistent to all parties was our objective. And we took testimony for a year and a half after the legislative session in 2011. And then we continued to have hearings during the last legislative session to pass the bill. And by the way, it was one of about a 6-bill tax reform package. Mm-hmm. House Bill 500 is the one you're referring to. That's the margins tax reform bill. And what we learned from business owners and businessmen and women around the state, that too often they were treated unfairly. Too often there were classes of business that received favorable treatment in terms of tax deductions and application of the rules. And they were not receiving the same deductions, and they felt like they were unfairly treated. So we heard their testimony. They raised concerns to us. We saw where automotive repair shops that were independent had to pay higher taxes and did not have the same deductions available to them that bigger chains, mm-hmm. or those that had parts stores or that were automotive dealerships received. There were many other examples, and we addressed that. But there were a number of other areas where businesses were at a competitive disadvantage with other businesses because they didn't get the same tax treatment in terms of deductions and other rules. And we think that we hear others say, well, you're picking winners and losers. The fact is, the winners and losers were picked in 2006 when the margins tax was passed in the first place.
But you were happy that
I wanted to increase the number of winners, and we would have increased it much farther than we did last session, but we did succeed in adding a number of winners by our reforms.
We're out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up, but I do want to just ask quickly, by looking at polling and everything, this is still a wide open race, don't you believe?
Oh, it's wide open. The biggest category is undecided. Most voters don't know who any of us are. We feel very encouraged by what we've seen. We are contenders. We have resources that we've raised, and everything, all the indicators are we'll continue to raise those resources. And the strategy and the message that we have is resonating, and people are responding all across the state to our message and to our campaign. And we're really excited about where we are.
Okay, well, Harvey Hildebrand, of course, a state representative running for comptroller as a Republican. It's good to see you again. We'll see you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're back with more right after this.